In this presentation, we'll look into the time-based blind SQL injection. So in some cases, the application won't make any differences in the page, even if it is vulnerable to SQL injection. So the tester won't be able to determine whether the injected query is succeeded or not. In such cases, we can go with the time-based SQL injection attacks. So determining whether the injected query is succeeded or not by making the database server to pause for some time. If the query is successful, then the response will be delayed. So here is a small flowchart on how to detect the time-based SQL injection. So we start, and with the URL, that is the example.com/info, where the ID value is 1. Let's send in a normal request and note down the response time. And let's change the ID value to 1 sleep of 4. And if the page loads slower than normal, it might be vulnerable to time-based attack. If no, let's go ahead and try the alternative techniques. So let's look into the time-based attacks on MySQL. So some of the MySQL functions to be used are the benchmark function. That is the syntax would be like benchmark of count expression. So this executes the expression repeatedly, the count times the whatever the value of the count would be. So for example, if it is benchmark of 1 million encode of a CSPF security, the above query executes the encode function 1 million times. This will be helpful in delaying the database result. And the next would be sleep, and which pauses the number of seconds, pauses for the number of seconds, and this is available since the MySQL version 5.0.12. So let's look into the if statement. So the syntax for the if statement would probably go like this. So if you give the condition, then you give what to do when it is true and what to do when it is false. So as in the example below, we could see if the 2 is greater than 1, then it's going to take the version, or else it's going to take up the database. So, and the result that we got was the version, that is because 2 is greater than 1. So 1 row in a set, that is what we get as the result, and we get to see the version number of the database. So exploiting. So just like Boolean based blind SQL injection, we are going to ask the database a series of true or false questions. However, the difference will be identified based on the response time. So we will be using if statement combined with few SQL functions that will delay the response time. So let's see a small flowchart on determining the database server version. So we're going to start, and with the URL example.com/info, wherein the ID value is 1. So change the ID value to 1 minus. So if the MID of version 1, equals 5, then you're going to sleep for 10, 0. So if the page loads slower than the normal, yes, the database version is 5.x. Or if it doesn't load slower than the normal, then change the ID value to 1 minus if mid of version 1, equals 4, and the rest is the benchmark of 1 million encode with the appropriate values 0. So if the page loads slower than the normal, then it means that the database version is 4.x. So at the backend, determining the database server version is pretty much like this. So as we could see the URL, so if the database server's version is 5.x, then sending the above request delays the response time. So as from the database perspective, we could see at the in the image shown below that the query took 19.9992 seconds, and so which indeed shows that the database server version is 5.x. So in the similar way, in the MS SQL, we could go ahead and use the wait for delay query to slow down the query response. So the wait for delay query goes like this, with the hour, minutes and the seconds, which slows the completion of the SQL server process. And similarly, even we have the if statement here, and where when we give the if and the condition and what to do when it is true. So example usage would be if system user equals SA, then wait for delay and you given the time value.